I want to go now to Queensland, though, and this bid for the Olympics in 2032. And I'm joined from the Sydney CBD by the Vice President of the Australian Olympic Committee, Ian Chesterman. Ian's also the chef de mission for the Australian team at Tokyo. That's a hell of a good gig you got there, Ian. I bet you're looking forward to that next year. But tell us about Queensland's bid. Just how realistic do you think it is? Given, of course, we had the Olympics in 2000.
G'day, Chris. Yes, nothing's for certain, unfortunately, in the Olympic world. So 2032 is not yet locked and loaded, but what we've been given is the opportunity to create another home games. Those of us who were around in 2000 remember the huge impact it had on everybody, particularly Australian sport, but on every fan and citizen around the country. So to have another opportunity some 32 years later is fantastic for everybody. It's certainly a real opportunity. We're out in front. The IOC has changed its rules, so it can give the games at any time. It doesn't need to wait till that 7-year window that used to be the case. So we have a real opportunity to get in early, be in front of the pack. Anybody else that gets their candidature up and running is probably behind us now, and so we plan to stay in front and hopefully bring the games here in 2032.
Now, Australia's record must count for something. The Sydney Olympics were not only very friendly, and everybody who was here for them raves about the vibe of the place, if you like, but there were good crowds and it was very efficiently run. I think will tell us what the international community, how they view Australia's organisation of the Olympics then.
Yeah, I think it's Australia's seen as a very safe pair of hands when you come to organising major sporting events. Sydney 2000, obviously, the 2006 Melbourne Commonwealth Games were a great success. More recently, the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games were a great success as well. So 2032, Australia's seen as a safe option, somebody who really can organise major sports events, but also they're seen as passionate people, you know, who really love their sport. And the IOC and its members and the international federations around the world know that if you put on a show here in Australia and you call it sport, then Australians will turn up and watch it. And we're very confident that if we do get the games, they'll be a great success.
Well, as you mentioned, Ian, Brisbane's hosted the Commonwealth Games back in the 80s. The Gold Coast recently hosted the Commonwealth Games. How much of a step up is it in terms of facilities for athletes and spectators and media to go from Commonwealth Games to the Olympics?
Yeah, I think it's a big step up. Commonwealth Games is around about 13 sports. I think we have 33, 35 sports on the Olympic program. So it's a much bigger program. But importantly, Queensland, because they've had that history of running events, has a lot of the infrastructure already in place. Around about 80% is already there. And the other big thing which the Olympics brings to a city which the Commonwealth Games doesn't is a pretty big checkbook. You know, the IOC these days will spend $1.8 billion underwriting the operational cost of running the game. So that's a very major part of an overall budget, and that's certainly gives everybody confidence that we'll be able to run these games operationally. The goal is to do so on a cost-neutral basis.
And Ian, just on other matters, how much of a blow is it to world sport and the Olympics in particular, this ban on Russia for the next 4 years?
Yes, sort of the opposite of all the good news that we've had today around 2032 and the incredible opportunities that creates for Australian sport and for Australia generally, putting us on the sporting map. Unfortunately, we have the news today that Russia has been banned. I say unfortunately we've had that news. It's unfortunate, of course, that we have these drug problems, but I think it's a very good decision from WADA. It's a very strong action to ban them for 4 years from many, many different events around the world, and also holding positions of executive power in sports. And it still does create the opportunity for Russian athletes to partake in Tokyo, but we know there'll be far less than there would have been had this action not been taken. So our goal obviously is to make sure, or the WADA's goal is to make sure that only clean athletes get to Tokyo, and it's the best competition of all the clean athletes of the world, which is what we want to see at an Olympic Games. So yes, it's disappointing news that it's happened, but I think the world of sport is really cheering the decision from WADA because it is strong action, and it is a real setback to the Russian sports program.
Indeed. Thanks, Ian, and good luck for the Queensland bid.
Thank you very much.